Well, I was just watching live the commissioners, I don't know if it was the city council or what particular commission it was on regarding Alabama is ready to default on its municipal bonds. And they had a live hearing going on, and there was a proposal given to them. And when I tuned in, I'm not sure how far they were into this, but I watched it for the last probably 15 minutes, I would say. So I can't tell you what happened in the beginning because I don't even know how long it was going on. But there was a proposal that they were voting on. And I guess the outcome now is that they decided to vote not in favor of the proposal and are going to try to come up with a different solution. They're not ready to pull the trigger on Chapter 9 bankruptcy, but they're not ruling it out either. But they're definitely not taking the proposal. I am not sure what the proposal was, but based off of what they read real quick, it sounds like the proposal would be, okay, let's go to our creditors. In other words, get ready, make sure JP Morgan's not listening to me. JP Morgan, the largest creditor, period, that they owe money to, and a large sum of that. They didn't say how much either, but it is. One lady did say it is the largest creditor. One of them, or two of them actually, I think, said it. JP Morgan is the largest creditor on those bonds, municipal bonds, that it should be getting interest back on those bonds. So if they file Chapter 9, they can basically tell JP Morgan, we're giving you 20 cents on the dollar, go piss off. Which would be funny. It'd make me really happy to hear that, actually. I'd probably cry with tears of joy. But they never said, where did the proposal come from? Who submitted the proposal? Who wrote it? Etc. And if I had to guess, JP Morgan's boys wrote the proposal to give to them, since again, they are the largest creditor on those bonds. So I thought to myself, knowing this research and stuff that I now know and am well informed on over the last years, in other words, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I already know how this ends, or at least how JP Morgan wanted it to end. Look no further than what JP Morgan's bank of all banks do, which is, of course, the IMF, World Bank, etc., which is all of, you could just say, a branch of JP Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, HSBC, etc., the big banks of the world, who, of course, as we all know, are pretty much the shareholders and owners of all the central banks anyways. So I just want to throw that out there real quick. But JP Morgan's gonna say, here's our proposal. We'll take a big haircut on the interest rates that we agreed to back in the day. And by the way, let me get off track again real quick. As you'll recall, I've mentioned numerous times already in my videos that JP Morgan had some kind of, I forgot what I called it the other day, a special agent or something, had a little agent that was able to get on the inside of every single bid proposal to all the municipalities pretty much in America, as many as they wanted, were able to look at other banks' proposals on what they would pay for bonds, municipal bonds, interest rates. And JP Morgan figured out the lowest that they could go because they had the inside information on how to outbid everybody else. Therefore, they got all of the accounts, if you will, which is the municipalities, and they sold them the package of, we'll give you X amount of interest rates for those bonds. We're going to give you, billions of dollars now. Here you go. And then you're going to give us billions of dollars back, of course, in bonds of just interest rate. You're going to pay that interest rate back. But we're going to give you the money now so you guys don't default now. That was the whole plan of this. So, again, JP Morgan got caught red-handed with that insider knowledge, got busted. I even mentioned it in one of my videos a while back. Of course, settle out of court. Security and Exchange Commission comes in because it is a security, some type of securitized debt, whatever. It's a bond. It goes to the Security and Exchange Commission, not some kind of federal court. Thank you, Security and Exchange Commission. Our boys are in power over there. Therefore, we won't get a slap on the wrist. We won't get jail time. We won't get anything other than a little tiny slap fine, a little spank on the wrist fine of crap, a crap fine to begin with. Pay your fine, settle out of court, and you'll agree not to do this again. Yeah, of course. Well, it doesn't matter because you've already done it. You've already captured all that business anyways. So you take the little fine over here, we got busted, and the rest of them you get to keep. So what does JP Morgan, what does the World Bank do? The World Bank gives loans to countries that it knows, like Greece, Ireland, Portugal, etc., 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 the third world countries that they've basically been through and plundered already. They give them a loan that they know in advance they cannot pay back, but they give them this big lump sum of money. Here you go, now you can skate through the next year or 6 months or whatever it is. The country's fine, okay, good, we should start increasing tax revenues, we should start increasing business again. We just skated by through the skin of our teeth, and this money helped us a lot, thanks World Bank and IMF. Only to find out their economy collapses even worse, dire situation, oh my God, we can't pay back this loan, what do we do? IMF, help us out, what do we do? Well, we have a proposal, same word, right? We have a proposal for you. We'll lower your interest rates on a new loan to cover up that loan and make it work out better for you. Oh, well, thanks, that's better. Only to find out that that doesn't work either, except when they made the second agreement to say, hey, we'll give you a new proposal, part of that is we need some collateral this time. Waterway, electric company, water company, sewage company, solid waste, whatever, some asset. Okay, we'll do it and we'll get that great interest rate. We can afford to pay that, only to find out that they can't pay that either. Now we're in dire straits and they've got collateral now. We're gonna have to default on these loans. Oh my God. And then they get the toll road, the waterway, the water company, all that stuff because you defaulted on the loan. When they should have in the first place filed some chapter of bankruptcy and say, IMF, screw you, F off. But of course, the IMF is lining certain politicians' pockets full of cash to make that deal happen in the first place. So that person is going to stand with the IMF, not its own country and citizens, which they owe that service to because the citizens elected them and are paying them with taxpayer money. So for God's sakes, damn it, you better have our best interest in mind, not the IMF or World Bank or anybody else. And what do we got going on over here? Some kind of traffic crap accident, cops in the way, whatever. So anyways, that's what the IMF does, that's what all these big banks do, etc., etc., etc. So having said that, let's look at what's going on. The proposal given to Alabama, I would assume, is probably from JP Morgan Chase themselves. I have no idea how they got the proposal or who proposed it, but whatever it was, that's what happened. And now that was pretty cool. The cop, I don't know if you can see him right now, probably not, was walking up to traffic, looked at me, looked back at traffic, waited for me to drive by, and then stopped all the traffic behind me. Why would he do that? Because he thought I was one of his boys driving in the police car, my unmarked car. It looks very real. He thought it was too. Gave me a little, little nod, little look over, got you covered. Appreciate that, but I'm not a cop and this isn't a cop car. It just looks like it. Thanks. Anyways, back on track. So JP Morgan probably submitted this proposal. We want to give you great interest rates on the new loan. We'll rework the whole paperwork and just keep paying us the full amount. Don't give us a haircut on the bonds. We want the full 100% minus this tiny interest rate. Whatever. We'll take that down. And what I just witnessed, if I'm thinking I saw this correctly, again, I saw the last 10 or 15 minutes, so bear with me if I got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. They decided not to accept the proposal. We're gonna have to think about this. This is a big decision, and they said this has to do with about $1 billion, $1 billion worth of bonds that they're gonna have to decide on. It's the biggest in the country that would ever have defaulted if they have to default. It would be the first time ever of that size, an enormous amount, $1 billion. So they decided not to go with the proposal yet, but they also said we're not going to leave here today and say that we're filing Chapter 9 either. We need to schedule the commission or whatever. So that's good news that JP Morgan's probably sweating right now a little bit, and who knows how this will end, because if there's one of these commissioners in there that's getting their lines pocketed by JP Morgan, then they're going to do everything that they can do to get out of it. And there was one commissioner in question, I think it was Joe Knight or something Knight was his name, who I just, listening to him talk, immediately my body, the way I felt was that he wasn't for the people, he wasn't in the best interest of the people, that he may have wanted the proposal to go through. I'm not sure, but again, I just heard him talk a couple times. My gut feeling was that. My gut feeling could be completely wrong, so just gonna throw that out there though. But that's interesting because regardless of whether they restructure that debt and say, okay, let's take a better interest rate, they're gonna probably come to the conclusion that, you know what, we've looked at the absolute best interest rate possible, and as a matter of fact, let's take the interest out of the equation and let's just look at playing back principle. You know what, based on our economic situation here in Alabama, we can't even make a regular payment. It's in our best interest to just default. That's probably the conclusion that they're gonna come to. And I hope, again, that there's not a little secret JP Morgan guy in there pushing, lining pockets with millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, whatever it is. Guys, just restructure, please restructure, please restructure. Don't give us a haircut. I hope they do the right thing. Because was it not, and I did the video again, yours truly, Realist News, keeping it real. I did the video, showed up a little black and white chart I printed out for you guys. Little up increases of the amount of people jumping on food stamps, and it listed every state. And then I said, hey, look at the first one. And while the rest of the states had a little upping, you know, maybe this tall in one state, maybe this tall in another state, you know, just kind of all over the place. Didn't really move much more than that. And then all of a sudden over here, Alabama was like this. It was almost off the chart. In recent, very recent food stamp increased amount of, in other words, the population now that has went in for food stamps is now just from the month before or 2 months before just skyrocketed, quadrupled. I mean, it was just sick, 1,000%. I don't even know what it was. Probably more than quadrupled. Could have been 800, 900, 1,000%. I don't even know. It was just insane. So if that many people in Alabama who are taxpayers probably lost jobs, etc., there goes your revenue. Kiss it goodnight, goodbye. It's going to be in Alabama's best interest to do what our laws were written for in advance to get you out of trouble. That's what makes our country so great. You have a bankruptcy law? Yes. Use the damn thing. Wipe it all out. Guess what? You're getting a 20% haircut on those bonds. It's nothing but what I told you before bond stands for. Bondage. The servant is in debt to the lender. You are in servitude to them. That's all it is. What would happen if the bonds went away? Nothing. JP Morgan collapses or helps JP Morgan collapse. They wouldn't collapse off of one of these guys, but it just helps nail that nail in the coffin for JP Morgan and the big banks. It doesn't affect any of us any other way. It affects none of us at all. It only affects JP Morgan, the Bank of America's out there, the Citigroups, the HSBCs, the Deutsche Banks, all these guys. That's all who it affects, and the same thing applies to most of the countries that own our United States bonds, not the municipal bonds, but the United States is in the same situation, as I said again in my videos just recently. It's the same thing as the federal government. Local government, municipalities create bonds, give them to JP Morgan, then pay JP Morgan interest on the bonds through taxpayer money. But JP Morgan gave the municipality cash money, lump sum all at once. The federal government does the same thing. We create a bond for $10 billion. Now the Federal Reserve gives us $10 billion in cash. We take that $10 billion bond, put it on the market. Who wants to take it? We'll change the interest rate until we find a buyer. Okay, got a buyer. Now we're paying interest on that bond. Why the hell are we paying interest on any bond? Why in the hell are bonds even created? They're not needed. Because that's the way the banks own and control you and own and control your government, the president, the Congress, and everybody else through this bondage. And ultimately, the guy at the very bottom, the peasant class, that's all of us. All of us are in that class. Whether you're upper middle class, poor, whatever, including rich people, they're still part of that, but they still have so much money, it really doesn't matter to them regardless. So why are there bonds? It's not even needed. It's just dumb. It's stupid. And again, I can't wait. I hope that one of these videos I do in the very near future, when Alabama commissioners get back together and come to the conclusion that, hey, no solution we've been offered so far is a solution, except Chapter 9 bankruptcy. JP Morgan, sit on this and spin. Any other banks that are holding these bonds, sit on both of these and spin. Have a nice day. I would love nothing more than to see that happen. And trust me, you would too, regardless if it hurts you in the short term because, oh, banks aren't giving loans out anymore. Oh, doesn't matter. You don't need a bank. You got the federal government that has a printing press. They could be the direct lenders to everybody if they wanted to. Right now, turn on the printing press. We have 10 centralized or whatever out there central banks that are part of the Fed. Congress takes back over. The Federal Reserve is now the People's Bank of America, whatever you want to call it, and it creates loans, doesn't care about anything. The crisis is gone. We wiped it out. We are now, everyone has a new credit score. We're pushing the reset button overall. But you know that's not going to happen. It can't happen because the banks are not going to take a haircut like that. They will fight tooth and nail and pay off anybody they have to pay off. They will kill anybody they have to kill if it needs to be, to get their way and to continue their system. But as you are seeing, it still doesn't matter how hard they try, they are still losing their grip on us slowly but surely. It's just a matter of hurry up and lose most of that grip because I'm tired of waiting. Anyways, I gotta go. Take care.